Hello, and welcome to another World of UX podcast. This is your host, Darren Hood. Thanks for taking the time, everyone, to join us on today. A special welcome, as always, to those of you that are listening in for the first time. For today's segment, as we take a break between some of the talk and shop interview sessions that I've been holding lately, wanted to just dive back into another potpourri session. And for those of you that might be new to the podcast, what I mean by UX potpourri, it basically, think of it as a bunch of mini sessions being shared within one podcast episode. We could easily dedicate an entire episode to these, but we decided to just take these with smaller chunks, if you will, and just present multiple topics within the episode. So we're going to talk to you today about 4 different topics. That's usually what we do in the potpourri sessions, and just break them down. We're not speaking to these. I got to take a moment to address this today. We are not speaking exhaustively to these topics. I've had a lot of interactions with folks who, when I take the time to present something, for some reason, people speak as if I'm saying everything that I know or everything I have to say about this particular topic at this particular time. That is not true. These are segments. I also tend to post on social media in bits and pieces, and that's usually due to the fact that we are constrained with space. You can only post so many characters, so you can only say so many things, and you also don't want to say too much at any given time. Even if you did have unlimited scenarios, such as in a blog post, you don't say everything in a particular instance, because a lot of times what you're saying is something people have not considered, people don't want to hear, people are having trouble digesting, so you only give them a little bit at a time. That's the way that you accomplish the goal of getting people to understand what it is that's being presented. So I just find it interesting. And sometimes people say things like that because they're actually trying to disavow what's being said. They're trying to paint a picture. They're trying to cast aspersions and paint a picture that you don't know what you're talking about, when in fact you do know. And if you didn't know, you wouldn't be able to break it down the way we're breaking it down. But it's just interesting. It's interesting the lengths that people will go to make it seem like somebody doesn't have anything of value to contribute. It's also interesting how people will say things only to come back and present the same exact thing themselves later because they actually want credit for what's being said. We're in a terribly corrupt society in general. Society in general is really corrupt. There is a minority of people that are willing to do the right thing, even if they lose something, even if they stand to lose. There are people who really don't stand up for what's right, and the UX arena is not exempt to being overrun by this. Matter of fact, we are being overrun by this today, and we talk about this a lot on the show. But at any rate, that's just a sidebar before we get into the topics. But let us go ahead and get started with topic number 1. For topic number 1 today, I want to talk about the importance of domain knowledge. For the past few years, I've been going into companies, been invited, and going to start actually farming myself out to make myself available for this. If you would like to have me come in and speak to your team, get in touch with me. Reach out. We can come in and spend an hour, a half a day, just speaking with teams, helping to empower UX teams. This is something that is very much needed. There are a few people that have been doing it. There are some people that have been making a living off of this. And sadly, there are people that have been doing this and misinforming the teams that they go in and speak with, which puts the teams on, number one, on a destructive track, because the people are not hearing what they need to hear. They're not learning what they need to learn. And also people are doing it to build a sense of dependency. I'm all about helping people learn how to fish. I'm not in the business of fishing for you. I'm in the business of empowering people through education to help them learn how to fish, so to speak. If you provide people with fish instead of teaching them to fish, then people who do that build a sense of dependency, and that really keeps the income flowing for them. That's not what we're trying to do. But I am interested in coming in the company. So if you want me to do that, just reach out to me. Let's talk about how that would be done and how we go about accomplishing that. But at any rate, I went into a company, great talk, great set. Won't tell you the name of the company, of course, but went in with this particular company, and I made a statement about the importance of domain knowledge, which is what we're about to talk about here, and what that means to teams. Now, what is domain knowledge? There are some people who are not familiar with that terminology, so we'll level set, as I tend to do. We'll level set up front, and then we'll get into what I want to express or share about this. According to Wikipedia, I thought this was a good place to start with this one. The information is accurate, so let's, in this case, the Wikipedia is not 100% trustworthy, but in this particular case, it is accurate. And I thought, from a perspective of commonality, I thought I'd use it to address this topic. According to Wikipedia, domain knowledge is knowledge of a specific discipline or field, such as UX, inserting, in contrast to general or domain independent knowledge. So domain knowledge really is, Wikipedia goes on to say, domain knowledge, people who have it are often regarded as specialists or experts in their field. So these are not people who just arrived a few weeks ago, a few months ago, a couple years ago. You cannot achieve domain knowledge overnight. You cannot achieve domain knowledge in 6 months, as the boot camps like to say, indirectly saying that you can learn everything you need to know about UX in 6 months. They're implying that you can become an expert or have a great deal of domain knowledge. No, nobody gets domain knowledge by scratching the surface, which is all any boot camp will do for you. So it's important that we know and understand this. The term is often used in reference to a more general discipline. For example, again, this is from Wikipedia, and great point that's being presented here. You have a software engineer who has general knowledge of computer programming and domain knowledge about developing programs for a particular industry. So this person has knowledge, and a lot of people out there just equate knowledge across the board. They just say a person has knowledge, and then they give person credit for having knowledge, but they're not differentiating between domain knowledge, where is that person actually an expert, and general knowledge, where they just have some high level information or awareness about a particular topic. Maybe they've read a few articles, maybe they know a few buzzwords, but they have not actually done the work. They've not been in a position where they've delivered a solution under pressure in association with that particular discipline or that particular topic. Those people just have general knowledge. And people who have general knowledge appear to people who have no knowledge as experts, as domain experts. Their general knowledge is thought to be, and these terms are not coming up, this is just the perception. They think, people with no knowledge think that people with general knowledge have domain knowledge. And sadly, people with general knowledge today, a lot of them, who actually, this is going to come up later again, they like to present themselves as having domain knowledge. And from a predatory perspective, they're taking advantage of the people who have no knowledge. And then they turn around and cast aspersions against people who have domain knowledge so that they can appear to be the go-to resource for this thing that's being discussed. And that simply isn't the case. Domain knowledge is critical. I did a talk a few years ago about how to build a powerful UX team. And I need to deliver this talk again. I'm going to go back and deliver several of my older talks again, because this talk was getting close to 10 years ago almost. And I delivered this talk. But when you have teams, I mean, look at a team that they have 5 people, they're hiring another person. What does your domain knowledge on the team collectively look like at the present time as you're looking at candidates? What would the team look like? Look at the 5, say there are 5 candidates being considered for this one role. What would the team's domain knowledge look like? Because remember, your UX maturity is tied to domain knowledge. Well, just inserting that, really. Your team's maturity level is reflective of their collective domain knowledge. The ability to manage the team's operation and the brand perception and the value prop that the team has is reflective of domain knowledge. And so a lot of times, I mean, a lot of the hot topics, one of the hot topics today is all the layoffs that have been happening with regard to UX. When you go back and look at a lot of those teams didn't have a lot of domain knowledge. And for that reason, you can't build a high degree of value. So if the team is not bringing a lot of value, guess who's going to be on the chopping block when it's time to start getting rid of folks? And I think Dr. Nick Fine was doing a talk. I came across it earlier on social media today, doing a talk about value. That's the name of the game. UX has to bring value. A team has to bring value. An individual has to bring value. And so that is dependent upon domain knowledge. When people have teams, going back to that example, how do you build a powerful UX team? Look at what will the domain knowledge look like if you add each of those 5 individuals, and the person who adds the most domain knowledge is your best candidate. There is no getting around that at all. People keep trying to build UX teams with folks who do not bring domain knowledge. If you're hiring for entry level, you're looking at general knowledge. There is no domain knowledge at entry level. So if you're hiring for an entry level person, then you see the person has general knowledge, and then you consider other factors such as passion, such as the willingness to learn, such as their ability to communicate. Ability to communicate has nothing to do with UX. Either a person can communicate or they don't. A person is easy to talk to or they're not. A person wants to learn, is willing to learn, understands that being in UX requires a commitment to lifelong learning. Either a person has that or they don't. So what are you hiring for? And if the team already has low domain knowledge collectively, you need to bring somebody on that team that has some really strong domain knowledge, or your team is going to suffer. So when a person hires somebody that does not enhance the domain knowledge of the team, that person is indirectly and unconsciously volunteering for their team to suffer later. Somebody needs to know this, but because a lot of teams are being run by people who really don't know anything about UX, they're not going to consider anything like that, and the team is going to suffer as a result. So domain knowledge is important. It is extremely important. It is a practice differentiator, folks. It is a UX practice differentiator. And please, for God's sake, start sniffing out these folks who come and say that they've been doing UX for 9 and 10 years, when really they've been a visual designer for 9 and 10 years, or they've been a developer for 9 or 10 years. I see this a lot. And they do their little song and dance. I'm getting ahead of myself, because we're actually going to speak about that in a bit. Remember, domain knowledge is a practice differentiator for an individual as well as for the team. Domain knowledge is an element that helps drive UX maturity. The UX maturity of an operation is limited to the ceiling that is based on the collective domain knowledge of a team. If you have a bunch of people with 3 years of experience, you flat out do not have any UX maturity, and it cannot be achieved because those people cannot manage UX maturity. I don't care whether it's at a startup. I don't care whether it's at an enterprise. It does not matter. I remember one team just crossed my mind where they were fighting against domain knowledge. Old place I used to work, they fought against domain knowledge, and today their entire practice revolves around design thinking. So when your practice, a little side note, when your practice revolves around design thinking, know that your domain knowledge is going to be minimal to none, and also you're really going to detrimentally impact UX maturity, because if UX maturity is dependent upon your process, and your process that you're leaning on is design thinking, that means you have a bunch of people with general knowledge, if that, sometimes they don't even have that, contributing to the well-being of your operation. And that is a losing proposition. So folks, domain knowledge is critical. Somebody actually said recently. They said that domain knowledge is a two-edged sword, and I said it right in that meeting when it was brought up. I said that's actually not true. You can't get anywhere with general knowledge. You flat out can't get anywhere. Can those people grow? Yes, but it's going to take you a long time. You know why? Because you can't dedicate 40 hours of your week to making sure that everybody's knowledge level is transitioning from general to domain. So that's a losing proposition. You have to have at least one or two, depending upon the size of the team, at least one or two people who are of more truly at a senior level, people who have domain knowledge. And if we measured seniority levels in UX by domain knowledge, this is why we say a person cannot truly become a senior until they've been doing UX work for 8, 9, or 10 years. And that depends on where they're doing the work. Because if you've only worked at one organization, you only know how UX works in that organization. You know UX from a general knowledge perspective, and you have domain knowledge within your organization, but you don't have domain knowledge across the entire discipline. So there's domain knowledge for the discipline, domain knowledge for an organization. That varies. But a person cannot achieve an expert level of operation until they've been doing the work for at least 8 to 10 years. So using domain knowledge as a differentiator changes everything. It gets rid of all these terrible inflated job titles that people have that they have not come anywhere near achieving. And then they post their title out to LinkedIn, and now everybody thinks the person is a senior, and the person can basically put one of the two stems and an X into UX. That is a disservice. It does a disservice to the discipline. It does a disservice to the individual, does a disservice to the team, does a disservice to the organization, does a disservice to the customers and the users associated with that organization. These types of things are problematic for us in UX today. So remember, domain knowledge is key. And the last thing, I'll close on this note. When I push back on that statement about domain knowledge being a two-edged sword, and the person said that, what if a person has domain knowledge, but they refuse to learn anything else? And I said, well, that person lacks emotional intelligence. Remember, being in UX requires that a person be committed to lifelong learning. If you're committed to lifelong learning, you'll never have a frame of mind that you think there's nothing else for you to learn. So that was really a very flawed statement to have been made, because it's not doable. It simply isn't doable. If somebody thinks there's nothing else to learn, then the person is not a true UXer. Just flat and simple. I'm still learning. 28 plus years, still learning. We'll never stop learning. There's always going to be something else for me to learn. I'm excited about the things that I will learn. So just we got to watch out for that kind of stuff, because when people do that, then those kind of people will fill their entire departments with people that are not really seniors. And then they have people that are not seniors thinking that they're seniors. So now you're infecting people with a Dunning-Kruger mindset, and that's a losing proposition. So these are things we need to know and understand today. Again, domain knowledge is a practice differentiator. Be about that differentiator. That's huge for your team. On to topic number 2. The second topic today has to do with what I refer to, for the purpose of this brief address, as the rise and fall of UX. In the late 90s, the world at large experienced what we refer to as the dot-com bust. Everybody a few years prior to that was running to get on the internet. Experiences were being put together everywhere, but these experiences were void of having a user-centered mindset. And as a result, there were experiences everywhere, but they were failing. So businesses that had rushed to get on the internet saw their internet-based initiatives falling apart because they simply failed to acknowledge the mental models of the people who were on the internet. They were out there for themselves, and they were void of understanding what users wanted and needed. And so the experiences were not reflective of what users wanted and needed. So they didn't get any value out of it. So it was falling apart. I personally like to think that it was UX that saved everybody from the dot-com bust, because people started to become more user-centered. Focus started to shift to information architecture. The Polar Bear book had come out in about 97, 98, and people started to pay attention. They started to put together better more useful, more practical information architectures and interfaces that help people accomplish their goals, help people meet their needs. People started saying, hey, this internet is useful. Hey, this internet is going to allow me to accomplish my goals. And when this started to happen, we overcame the dot-com bust and everything came forward. Now, fast forward to 2024. Actually, let's say 2022 to 2024, when the siege of UX that I often talked about that started in 2011 has come full bloom. It has blossomed. And now part of that siege, which included trying to get rid of people who actually knew what they were doing as practitioners, has really come full circle and is being executed on several fronts. People who were hired to run UX teams who didn't know anything about UX have really, to a great extent, stopped hiring people who knew what they were doing and filled their teams with people with general to no knowledge instead of people with domain knowledge. And so as a result, what we're starting to see, because this has really been accelerated over the last 3 years, 2022 again to 2024 today, where now the experiences, the bad experiences has started to become extremely common. There were already a lot of bad experiences that were out there, to the extent that a few years ago, a company by the name of Aquent used to be a big recruiting resource. I don't know how they're doing today or what's going on with them today, and I know a couple things, but I won't talk about that today. They did a study a few years ago that said that 97, if I remember the number correctly, 97% of the experiences that were available in the wild were flawed. And you could see it, but it was always something smaller. It wasn't usually anything really grandiose, anything that was too prominent. In 2024, and this is the fall of UX, is what I mean. When I say the fall of UX, I'm referring to today. And I'm calling these companies out just because you can go and look at it and you can see for yourself and judge what I'm saying, the accuracy of it. Approximately 6 to 8 weeks ago from the date that this podcast is being deployed, you could go to Home Depot, and a lot of us have shopped at Home Depot for years. Big company, successful company, a lot of great things going on. They've done a lot of great things. And I know some people that have been tied into a lot of the great things that they've done with their user experiences. But oh my God, what they've done now. Who in the world thought it was a good idea to remove the global navigation? About 6 to 8 weeks prior to the airing of this episode, something happened. Somebody thought it was a great idea and it was executed. The little hamburger menu that used to appear on the Home Depot site is now gone. Hopefully they put it back soon, because I don't know, it's not being A/B'd, because you can go out there multiple times and it doesn't change. So this is not an A/B test. Somebody removed it. It's gone. Now, when you go to the Home Depot website, it's really funny. I'm actually going to go there so I can speak specifically to what I see right now. The hamburger menu that used to appear in the upper left-hand portion of the screen has been replaced. Now, to the far right of the screen, this is what it was replaced with. It says shop all with a picture of a bucket, of which a lot of people don't know. And funny thing about iconography, to just digress here, sort of rephrasing what I was about to say. With iconography best practices call for text with the icon. One of the reasons why is because less than about 10% of icons are understood without text. So you put text with the icon and it's supposed to make it more intuitive. In this particular case, this bucket, who in the world decided the bucket it should have been used as an icon for shop all? That's not associated with shopping. This is wild. So you got this bucket and then you got the word shop all, no hamburger menu, which people would have recognized immediately as, if you click here, you will see a menu. You will see a menu of options from which to choose. And so, okay, so you said shop all. I'll click on that. What do you see when you click on shop all? You see savings. That's the first thing you see. That's the most prominent item that has been grouped into this taxonomy is savings. Okay. Second, shop all Halloween decorations. Wow. Shop by department, shop by room, shop home decor and furniture, gift cards, local ad. Before, you would see the categories. So the items that appear under shop by department used to appear prominently at the top of that previous hamburger menu that existed. Now, next to that, you also see right next to shop all, you see services, you see DIY. If you're logged in, you'll see your name, or there's probably a login if you're not logged in, and then you see a shopping cart. The items that used to appear in the hamburger menu appear as categories about 2/3 of the way, if not 3/4 of the way down the page. Somebody decided, see, and this is because the general knowledge folks are being hired over domain knowledge folks. These people are faking it till they make it. They'll do anything to make sure that they keep getting a check. The departments oftentimes are run by people who don't know what UX is, so they don't push back. These are all spitball experts. They're all trying something to see if it'll work, when a person with domain knowledge, who usually has a very strong personal heuristic repository, will know what works or is willing to subject it to research before they deploy it, so they're not putting the money's bank account at risk out there by doing ridiculous things like this. I was shopping for a refrigerator recently, saw what Home Depot did, could not believe my eyes, and immediately went to Lowe's to shop somewhere else that respected the users enough to not strip down the interface to turn it into a gigantic experimentation feat. That's really what's going on here. So this is the fall of UX. Did something, telling you some of my experiences. Other people have similar stories. I've talked to people about these. They have similar stories, but I'm talking about mine because it's the best one to use for this example. I purchased something from Amazon, and right after I purchased, and I arranged to have it shipped and delivered, that whole, was it 4 to 8 a.m. thing, because I wanted to get it quick. But after I placed the order, I found out that there was an ingredient in this product. This was a beverage, an exercise beverage. I found out that this product, and I won't get specific with it because I don't want to out the product. I'm going to out the source so you can go in and duplicate something like this. You can duplicate the error that occurred, the error that came from people with general knowledge, because people are hiring folks that don't know what they're doing. Now, that doesn't work in any field. I don't know why people think it would work in UX, but they do, and they're doing it. I placed an order, so I want to return this. Well, this particular product can't be returned, I found out. And I know that that's a policy at Amazon sometimes, but Amazon will also, even if you can't return it, there are times they will give you a refund, which is what ended up happening in my case. I finally got the issue resolved, but boy, was the journey painful. I go to return the product. I click on return or replace. I opt for a return. Then Amazon will ask you for reasons, and rightfully so. They will ask you for reasons why it is that you're trying to return this product. And it's within this experience that something terrible happens. This is why people with domain knowledge in UX understand and try to identify micro experiences. There's something within the steps of the task in the return that went wrong. And a person with domain knowledge will identify that and make sure to design so that that doesn't occur. They will make sure that things happen right, things happen in a beneficial way at the micro level, whereas people with general or no knowledge will not, and they won't even identify the micro experience. They don't even know what a micro experience is, let alone trying to find it and design for it. They said that in the process, if you want to speak with us about this, if you want to engage with somebody about this process, click the contact us button or something to that extent, not the actual terminology, just trying to paint a picture. You click contact us to hopefully either start a chat or a call. Amazon does a phenomenal job on that. If you'd like to be called, you can click a button and put your phone number in and they will call you. Your phone will ring within seconds. It's a phenomenal way to approach customer service. That is why a lot of people like shopping at Amazon, because they do things so well. And they have invested a lot in their UX, and they were one of the biggest companies. That's why you see Amazon and you don't see Borders and you don't see Barnes & Noble and things like that having the same presence, if they exist at all. In fact, if I remember correctly, Borders and Barnes & Noble ended up merging, but Amazon did a number on a lot of these companies, a whole lot of companies, because they did things so well. But this is one time that they didn't. When you click on Contact Us, you end up in a loop. You just keep looping and you go through the same exact experience and you never get to talk to anybody. You have to, I got out, I applied my domain knowledge actually to get out of the loop and eventually got in touch with somebody who resolved my situation. But a lot of people don't know and won't see different cues to help them get out of this loop, and they'll just get frustrated. And I've seen people post in their reviews about products how that they didn't get a refund. They couldn't get a refund. I got a refund. How come you didn't get a refund? Because the way that you go through this experience so that it benefits you as a customer, which does help support and enhance the brand reputation of Amazon. If you can get this, now they don't get their money back. Now they're going to be discouraged from spending money at Amazon, because now if they buy a certain product, they may not be able to get their money back. I got my money back. So for those of you thinking about that and might not have that domain knowledge, it is possible to get your money back as long as you act it within a proper amount of time and you have certain circumstances that qualify you. It is possible to get a refund. But that loop, that micro experience associated with that loop, when you click contact us, and the expectation is when you click contact us, that something's going to happen. And especially if you're familiar with Amazon, it's either going to be a chat or a phone call. Folks, that's not what happened. It just went right back and started the entire process all over again. Third example of the fall of UX is that some of you know me personally, some of the people listening to this, and you know that I'm a big fantasy sports person. And it's that time of year where football, American football, is about to kick off. And we just had a lot of drafts and we're ready and we're excited to get involved and pretend we own teams and go through the whole 9 yards of this thing. It's some fun stuff to do. And so I'm on the Yahoo website. Yahoo is another site, and there's one of the underlying elements that I'm sort of addressing here. And I've sort of alluded to this a couple times, where people don't get, a lot of skilled people I know can't even get interviews at Home Depot. A lot of skilled people I know can't get interviews at Amazon. A lot of people I know can't get interviews, have applied and can't get interviews, have not gotten interviews at Yahoo, but they're hiring somebody. And they're hiring somebody that's producing stuff like the things I've already talked about and what I'm about to talk about with Yahoo. Yahoo, their interface now is completely what I call vanilla. And when I say vanilla, and this is funny because some of these people are ex-visual designers and they know better than to take everything and put it with this white background where nothing stands out and there's no contrast anywhere across the screen at all. So there's no scannability. It's almost like you're blind because the entire screen looks like one thing. It is very difficult to find what you're looking for because there's so much on the screen and nothing on the screen has any prominence at all because there's no contrasting elements on the screen. So the scannability is terrible. This is a sign to me that the people who did it don't know how to design. They're not UX designers. And so now people can't have an experience. They can't do things to have an actual experience on the site because the site doesn't afford it. Affordability is something that people with domain knowledge have a strong awareness of. People who have general or no knowledge about UX don't know what affordability is, so they will not bake affordability into their designs. I couldn't find what in the world I was looking for. I've been on Yahoo for, oh my God, I've been on Yahoo for close to a decade, if not a decade, and the interface has changed so much. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know how to perform certain tasks. Not only have they changed the screen and make it difficult to scan and read, they've changed calls to action. And so now you don't know when you do see nomenclature, you do see certain taxonomies, they don't make sense. So now you're trying to figure out what in the world is going on, and you can't. There are so many problems in the Yahoo Fantasy Sports interface. It's no longer a surprise why you see so many new competing platforms. ESPN's fantasy sports platform is terrible. They haven't changed it very much in years, but it's always just been terrible. Even just the way that the micro experiences there are played out. They have proper contrast. They have a lot of the visual design and interactive design elements in place, but just the micro experiences in ESPN is really, really terrible. But you have a lot of other platforms. There's a platform called Sleeper. There's a platform called Rival. There's a platform called Underdog. There's a whole lot of different platforms now that are out there that are going after the big dogs that have been around for years, CBS Sports, ESPN, Yahoo, NFL Network. There's a lot of these that have been out there for years, and they had such a presence, but people are jumping to the alternatives. Why? Because the experiences are better. And the experiences are better because they hire the right people to present the experiences, to design the experiences. I'll leave one. I was going to mention one that's not, because I know about one of their hiring practices. But when a company does not hire the right people to be in their UX operations, that's what has led to the fall of UX, where now bad experiences are becoming extremely common. And this is with big name companies, whether it's at the macro level or at the micro level. Either way, but these things ought not be. And it ties back to hiring. It ties back to UX maturity. It ties back to the preference for general over domain knowledge and not understanding what having your teams populated with too many general knowledge folks instead of not having enough representation of domain knowledge on your teams. That will cost your company millions, if not billions, when companies don't do it the right way. So we need to understand that. Let's go on to topic 3. Topic number 3 is what I refer to as telltale markers. And I'm purposely not being specific about what telltale markers, where they are, but I've been talking about hiring a lot. And that's really what I'm alluding to here. When you are in the market for a job, a lot of people, they're so busy thinking about the job and they want the job so bad that they fail to remember that they are also supposed to be interviewing and evaluating the company that would potentially become their employer. And so when this happens, we need to understand what some of the telltale markers are, i.e., identifiers that tell you something critical about that organization. Critical, telltale things, signs about that organization. And I want to bring up a telltale marker that a lot of people don't understand. I just mentioned a lot of companies have unqualified people on their staffs. A lot of companies have unqualified people running their UX teams. And there are even companies now that are hiring people with 2 years of experience, no domain knowledge, to run their UX teams. They are hiring people with 1, 2, and 3 years experience into manager and director roles. I even went to a company once and I didn't recognize it when I was on my way in. I was so excited. I was guilty. I was so excited about the opportunity that was with a Fortune 100 company, and they're willing to talk to me. That doesn't happen very often because companies don't like interviewing people who have domain knowledge. For some reason, they see us as threats. They don't see the benefit. They don't see how this is going to benefit their operations, which is a telltale sign. That's a telltale marker of that organization if they don't know that. But it's interesting how in that company, all the managers in that company, they were all retrofits. I talk about posers, retrofits, and upstarts. They were all retrofits. None of them was qualified to be managers. I didn't say they were bad managers, but I said none of them were qualified. And so when that happens, that was a telltale sign. I didn't see it, and it turned out to be a terrible, terrible, terrible experience. Had I seen that, I would have known. And so now I can retroactively look at that and share that it is critical to understand what a team's makeup is. I was on one team, the largest UX team I was ever on in my career, and only 2 or 3 people on that team had any prior knowledge whatsoever, prior experience with the discipline. It was a team full of retrofits and upstarts and posers. And to the extent that when you have a lot of people like that, a lot of them have inferiority complexes. I've never seen a large UX team that did not have a large volume of people that had inferiority complexes. So when they come across somebody who does have domain knowledge, instead of going, wow, I can learn a lot from you. Wow, I'd love to partner up with you. Wow, I'd love to engage with you. And I'm so glad you're on our team, because those of us who have the domain knowledge, that's our mindset. We do want to help. We do want to help build up the team. We do want to drive the team forward. And for some reason, we're viewed as being these people who are like coming in to stand on the top of the hill and knock everybody off. I don't know anybody who has domain knowledge that behaves like that at all. And I know a lot of people who have domain knowledge, and they love giving, and they love being caretakers, and they love being big brother or big sister. They love it. And they understand that that's what our job is in a scenario like that. But for some reason, we're not viewed that way. And I actually know why. Is because a lot of those people with the general knowledge see us as threats, and they're not going to be able to make as much money, and they're not going to be seen with the same level of respect. And so they go out of their way to try to get us discarded. And that's really sad. And that's part of what's hurt the discipline a lot. But that's a side note. I talk about that a lot. I want to look at this telltale marker sign from an angle that is different than what I've talked about in the past. Because I've talked about this before. I didn't call it telltale markers, but I have talked about this before. Say you have a person who claims that there's something they're not, something that's happening at epidemic levels in UX today. I am a UX leader. I've been in sessions where people have introduced themselves. Yes, and I have 10 years of experience, and I'm the visual designer, but I can do UX too. So if you need UX, don't hesitate to reach out. I actually heard somebody say that one day in a meeting where there was 2 UX people on the call waiting to introduce ourselves, and we're like looking at each other going, what did that person just say? You're not a UX person. You're a visual designer. Be the visual designer. I respect you from that perspective, but everybody needs to stay in their lanes, or we're going to have a lot of accidents on the freeway of our company's operation if you're not careful. And folks need to understand that. When you have people that claim to be something that they are not, and look at a team, when you're interviewing with a team and you get the names of the people you're going to interview with, go to LinkedIn, look them up, find out what the team's makeup is. Because if the team is full of people claiming to be something they are not, that means that the manager is prone to believing hype. That means the manager is likely someone who is being manipulated. That company I went to that was a Fortune 100, and I thought this was going to be a great opportunity. I found out that was the case because the manager that was there hired all of those people to be in those roles, and it would turn out to be a complete, sheer and utter disaster. It was a nightmare because nobody had any humility. Folks think that we're the ones, the people with the domain knowledge don't have humility. You better flip that. Better flip it fast. Because it's those people that don't have the humility because they don't want to. You've been big dog for 3 or 4 years, and now they're bringing somebody in that actually has big dog credentials, and now you can't be big dog anymore. Not only can you not be big dog anymore when somebody with domain knowledge comes in, but they're going to find out that the big dog stuff you've been selling them on was really a lie. That's really one of the reasons why a lot of these people don't like seeing folks with actual domain knowledge come into the company, because they're going to be found out to be false leaders, and they don't want to be seen that way. Well, you set yourself up. You're the one who made all those statements. You're the one that made all these declarations that turn out to be nothing. Tell people the truth, and you don't have to cover up for it. Tell people the truth and represent UX the right way, and then you don't have to worry about anything. That's too harsh of a proposition for a lot of people today. And people were frustrated because I'm saying it now on the show. Hey, this is real. It's happening. It's happening in epidemic proportions. And until we start holding people accountable, they're going to keep doing it. They're doing it and they're getting paid. So these people are actually another qualification I'm adding to posers, retrofits, and upstart. These people are thieves, frankly, because they're stealing money from a company because they're in a position that they really aren't qualified to be in. So not a good thing. When you evaluate these companies and you see there's a lot of people claiming to be somebody that they're not, and you have managers that are prone to believing hype, that means that there is a lack of EQ in that operation, and that guarantees that environment will be hostile if you really bring something to the table. If you're not a threat, they'll welcome you because you're not a threat. But if you have domain knowledge, you are a threat. And that environment will become hostile. That environment will be toxic. And that environment doesn't appear to be hostile or toxic before the person with domain knowledge actually comes on board. It doesn't appear to be. People think it's great. And that's not really the case. Nobody's been exposed as being a practitioner. You have a lot of UX witch doctors out here. You have witch doctors, and then you have actual people who actually have practiced and have had the training and know what they're doing. A doctor, an MD, has domain knowledge. A witch doctor has general knowledge. The witch doctor does not have, using this metaphor, a witch doctor does not have what an MD brings to the table. Whose health will you put your hands in? When it comes to UX, whose health of UX operation do you want your team's hands in? This needs to change. And there have been some people saying it's starting to change. And if it's starting to change, I'm happy. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm happy if it's starting to change. And I hope they're right, because it's what's going to be needed to save the discipline. We'll be talking about this in Austria next month. It's what's needed to save the discipline. If we don't get this right, then, and I've seen other disciplines die, UX will die. It's already been under siege since 2011. We've already had the onslaught of product over the last 4 years or so, where you see more product roles on job posting sites than you do UX roles now. And then the product roles, the descriptions imply that this person will be doing UX work. A lot of product people are not doing UX work. They think they are. And let's not look at job titles are job titles. Job titles are not necessarily representative of what's going on. We've talked about that before. But some people have not done what I'm talking about. Go do a search. You don't have to be looking for a job. Go and do a search. Do a search for UX. Type UX. Go to Indeed. Go to Dice. Go to LinkedIn. Go to Glassdoor. Go to whatever your favorite job site is, and type in UX design or UX research and watch and see the volume of jobs. Watch and see how many product design jobs come up. And a lot of times you will mostly see product design jobs. And a lot of the product design jobs, they don't want UX people. They simply don't want UX people. They want people to come in and take orders. They want people to come in. A lot of product design jobs, not all, but a lot of product design jobs are nothing but glorified visual designer jobs. And these people who hold these jobs are order takers. They are not critical thinkers. And it just creates problems for everything. And when the team is full of former visual designers and nobody knows anything about UX, you want to transition to UX? Fine. That's fine. No problem with that. But don't profess to be somebody you're not. And it is in everybody's best interest when people do come across a real UXer, that the UXer is respected for who they are and what they bring to the table, just like everybody else is respected for who they are and what they bring to the table. So these kinds of things are critical. But if you want to avoid hostile and toxic work environments, you need to identify the telltale markers that it is such. And a lot of companies are telling you, I have failed to identify them in the past, and I learned from that, and I'm trying to learn about it better going forward for the time that is left in my career. I would like to go someplace. I would love to go somewhere where I could stay for a long time. That'd be wonderful. It's difficult to do because there are so many hostile work environments. And when the department is run by a non-UXer, it's pretty much what you're going to get. It's going to be hostile and it's going to be toxic. Again, if you bring something to the table. If you don't bring anything to the table, you won't see an ounce of toxicity. You won't see an ounce of hostility. But if you start learning and you start manifesting and demonstrating what you learn, then that degree of toxicity and the degree of hostility is going to consistently and regularly increase over your time at that company. And then that's why you talk to people, find out they're trying to get out, they're trying to leave their company because it's toxic. I cannot tell you how many people I talk to that talk about how hostile and how toxic their work environments are today. It's off the charts. I talked to somebody else recently who said that they did not realize how bad the discipline, how bad of shape the discipline was in until they got out there and talked to about 30, 40, 50 people, and everybody said the same exact thing. So this is not just Darren Hood. I don't know why people think this is just me. I'm just one of the few people that's willing to talk about it. A lot of people are afraid to talk about it, and I've had people confess that to me. They're afraid to talk about it. I'm talking about it. I'm putting my head on a chopping block for talking about it, but it's talking about it that helps put it on people's radars. I've talked to people who are encouraged to start speaking out. More and more people are speaking out about what's going on in our discipline today because they're being encouraged by this. They tell me all the time, I appreciate the things you're saying. I appreciate that you're willing to say and do what you're saying and doing. This is terrible. This must change. And the more people who recognize that, the better off we'll be. The more people that will buy in, the more people that will embrace this, the more people that will recognize the value, the better off we'll be. And that's going to take us to topic number 4. The last topic I want to get into today has to do with empathy and AI messaging. Empathy and AI messaging. And this came from a situation that I had, and I'm trying to bring up the actual, I want to read exactly what came up here in this post. I got a message from someone. On social media, and it said, "Hi, Darren. It's great connecting with you. I hope you're doing well. My name is blank, and I'm a UX designer looking to connect with like-minded professionals in the field. I've been following your work for a while, and I'm truly inspired by your approach to UX design. I'd love the opportunity to collaborate with you on any upcoming projects where you might need an extra hand. I believe my skills and enthusiasm for creating user-centric designs could be a great addition to your team. Please feel free to reach out if you have any projects in mind or if there's any way I can support your work. Looking forward to the possibility of working together and learning from your expertise." Again, there's a lot that's said here. First and foremost, this is an AI-generated message. I mean, people don't even talk like this. This is an AI-generated message. And I posted this to LinkedIn, and I posted it with one line. Basically, I said, "For the record, I don't take kindly to receiving AI-generated messages. I find them," and that's what I said, "I find this insulting. I find it an infringement on my time. I think you wasted my time. There's a lot of things that were said in this message that are extremely generic that let you know. Number one, the person said, I'm a UX designer. I'm looking to connect with like-minded professionals. Do you really need to say that? I say no. And again, that's the AI lead-in. The person said that they've been following my work for a while. Well, that's interesting because I don't post my work to anywhere for anybody to see it. So how can you follow my work if I haven't posted it? So that's an assumption. This is not the first time I received a message that almost says the same exact thing, by the way. That's one of the ways I was able to spot it. The person says, I'm truly inspired by your approach to UX design. No, you're not inspired by my approach to UX design because you haven't seen my approach to UX design. So that's just a flat out lie. Here's what they're really going after. this statement right here. I'd love the opportunity to collaborate with you on any upcoming projects where you might need an extra hand. They're writing me to ask if I will hire them. And I said later, considering the fact that I already know close to 30,000 people that I am connected with, that are following me, that I follow, that I engage with, so much so that I have to take the weekends off from LinkedIn because I'm so busy with people reaching out to me. Sometimes I spend my evenings a lot of time just responding to LinkedIn. I'll take a break from my workday and respond to people. I'm always engaging with somebody. And all of a sudden, this person thinks that you're going to automatically be able to collaborate with me with any of my upcoming projects where I might need an extra hand. Are people not familiar with enterprise? Most of my work is done in the enterprise, and you don't just grab somebody off the street, throw some of your work over to them, and then get it back and then turn it in and claim it as yours. Even though some people are doing that today, folks. Some people have UX jobs and other people are doing the work. And people don't realize that, but we're not going to talk about that today. I believe my skills and enthusiasm for creating user-centric designs could be a great addition to your team. Guess what a lot of people with general knowledge lack today? Knowledge of what it means to be user-centric. That's you're throwing a buzzword at me thinking that that's going to help me relate to you. And that's not the case at all. And also, a lot of people that have no experience, such as this person, they like to always tout their skills and enthusiasm. Number one, you don't have any skills yet. And enthusiasm, anybody can be enthusiastic. And I'm not one of the zeal without knowledge people. If you're going to partner with me, if we're going to lock arms, there's got to be not only enthusiasm, but real skill, not just saying the word skill because you think it relates. I could be a great addition to your team. The person's asking for a job. We're not going to barrel past the other 28,000 people, and then all of a sudden you go to the front of the list. That's not going to happen. Please feel free to reach out if you have any projects in mind where I can support your work. Dude, enterprise, look at my you say you were following me, but you obviously don't know where I work. And we can't just throw something to you over the wall to do it. That's not going to work. Looking forward to the possibility of working together and learning from your expertise. You can look at all my posts from the last 2-3 years if you really want to learn. We don't need to engage to do that. That's what I challenge a lot of my mentees to do. So this is not happening. Now, I said all that to set the stage for what happened next and sharing as many of my thoughts in conjunction with the message the person sent me. And yes, I did block the person immediately because those of you who know me know I'm just not, I don't have time for people to waste. I don't have time to be wasted. And when I see disingenuous messages, when people can't be their genuine selves, I don't engage. It's a waste. I'm going to be my genuine self. And when you're willing to be your genuine self and you interact with people who are not being their genuine selves, they're not being honest, they're not being transparent, things of that nature, you are at a gross disadvantage and you're setting yourself up for a ton of abuse to come. So I cut it off immediately. Someone saw my reply. They saw what I had to say, I should say, about the scenario. And they said, "You are not empathetic." I became incensed with that response because it's really sad that someone would think I'm not being empathetic when the perp in this case wasn't evaluated at all. To send somebody a message, I don't know why people think that those who have a lot of experience are just sitting here with nothing to do but to help everybody out. That is a really terrible expectation that a lot of people live with. And in their minds, that is their reality, that people who are veterans in the discipline are just sitting here and it is our job to help vault other people along. They have absolutely no idea what we're going through. They have no idea the abuse that experienced UXers are being subjected to. They have no idea how we're being discarded. They have no idea how we are having a harder time finding jobs in 2024 than entry-level people are. And at best case, just as hard of a time. That shouldn't be the case because people with domain knowledge should not have trouble finding gigs. We qualify for everything we apply for, but we're being treated as if we don't. I'm one of those people that I do give of myself a lot. I do a lot of things, my own dime, my own time. I give to people. I help a ton of people in and out of a formal classroom. I help people find jobs. I give people tips all the time. I recommend books. I do the podcast. I don't get paid for this. I don't get paid for buying all the equipment to make sure to do this thing the best way that I possibly can. I bought all this stuff out of my own pocket. There are people, not many of us, who give of ourselves to the nth degree, only to have people come along with a sense of entitlement and push themselves into our lives and basically passive aggressively demand that we help them. They have no concern about what's on our plate. They have no understanding about the challenges that we face. They have no care whatsoever for what they're imposing on our lives, how it might detrimentally impact us. And then you get somebody, mind you, somebody with no professional experience whatsoever. The person who made that statement, "You're not being empathetic." The person who said that has no experience. Nobody has ever hired them to put them on their payroll. They've never done any work anywhere. I found those to be some of the most violent people. All they do is they claim that they're freelancers, but they claim they're freelancers because nobody will hire them, actually. And these people have so many opinions. I have suffered so much abuse from these people who think that with their lack of experience, that they have a right to sit out there and assassinate your character, especially in light of all the things that people like me do to help people along. But now I do one thing that you don't like, and all of a sudden, my name is mud because you and all your vast knowledge don't agree with what I'm doing. Who's really not being empathetic here, folks? Who's really not being empathetic? And AI is helping to spread the wealth, if you will, of this abuse faster and broader than without it. I prefer, you want to reach out to me? A lot of people do, but people reach out to me and they're genuine. When people reach out and they're genuine, we can embrace that. I've had people reach out to me before and they were genuine and they didn't agree with what I was doing. And we ended up having a conversation. And one of my biggest supporters used to be somebody who didn't agree with what I was saying. And today it's completely different because we had a conversation like human beings. They disagreed with me, but they didn't stop being human. They disagreed, but they didn't have a sense of entitlement. They disagreed, but they still had their ears on. They still had enough emotional intelligence to pay attention to what was being said, and they had enough critical thinking skill to actually process what was being said. And today, I had somebody who, I think I mentioned this recently, somebody asked me to review their portfolio and I declined. And they said it was the best thing that ever happened to them because they actually ended up experiencing something cognitively and intellectually and emotionally because of what I did that actually was better for them than me reviewing their portfolio. They got it. They had the emotional intelligence and the critical thinking skills to understand why I declined it and went and did something different instead, and they're a better UXer for it. It's amazing that people will trash you. And then I'm not being empathetic, but then they take somebody else that's taking advantage of people, that's merchandising people, that's manipulating people, and they think those people are the best thing since sliced bread. These types of interactions, if you can call it that, these types of engagements, these types of declarations, these types of conclusions that people are arriving at in UX circles are doing great damage to the discipline. They are not helping us to be our absolute best. They're not helping us to represent things the way that we should. And I challenge people out there today, be the right thing, do the right thing, learn the right thing, learn how to be do and speak the right thing, because our discipline still needs caretakers today, and all of us are ambassadors of UX, whether you like it or not, whether you agree or not, and whether you want to be an ambassador or not. You're in a discipline that still needs representatives. There are still way too many people that do not understand or know what UX is, and they need people who will represent it, explain it, and do the work the right way so that they can be afforded the opportunity to perceive the value proposition and understanding the discipline and the things that we do the right way. It's not until more of us start doing that we actually start making progress, instead of all these people out here today who don't, that keep deepening the ditch that we're trying to dig ourselves out of. So I hope everybody embraces these things. I hope you understand this is not just me ranting. These are real life situations that are happening. And some of us are reaping the consequences of what others are taking liberties to do today. Let's vault the discipline forward. I know this is a longer potpourri. We normally don't go this long, but we had to do this today. I hope you get something out of this. I hope you understand the practical side of this today and take the appropriate action. And if more people do, we'll be able to celebrate together 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, instead of talking about how terrible it is, because that's what's happening now. The only people that don't think things are terrible are the things that are making things terrible, or they're just downright clueless. So it's bad. It's bad, but it doesn't have to be bad. And so we continue to fight the good fight so that we can help it become a great dwelling place for everybody who's engaged in UX today, and for those who benefit from our work. So that's all the time we have for today, folks. I hope you got a lot out of this. Again, until next time, it is time to sign off. So this is Darren Hood, the host of The World of UX, wishing everyone all the best. And until next time, happy UXing, everybody.